Okay, so in this video, we're going to go over all the major ways that state users will use the Compass system to review nursing facility transfers and diversions. I'm also going to cover the different Compass Next modules, since that's new for state users this release, and then we'll go over the specifics of the actual review process in the individual case files for NFT and diversion participants. So this video was intended for state users to train on how to use the new system and new functionality and features. Okay, so the first place I want to start is the dashboard, because as soon as you log in, you guys are going to see the dashboard now. The dashboard is basically a home for Compass users. It's a place where you can see your workload and upcoming to-dos so that you know what kind of actionable items need to be done at a quick glance. And it also includes top-level metrics that can help highlight the current status of participants at a given agency. So agent users also have their own dashboard. When they log in, they just see stuff that they have to do, versus when you log in, you're going to see the things that you need to do. So the dashboard revolves around these filters here at the top, the organization filter and assigned to filter. Whatever selections are made here drive what shows up in the different widgets. So the default is, when you log in, is all for organization and all NFT/diversions for the assigned to. But you can update this to narrow that down and kind of drill down to look at a specific agency or a specific transition navigator. This list is will not be populated until you pick an agency, and then once you pick an agency, you'll be able to see the available transition navigators for that agency if you wish to limit the results by an actual TN. Most of the time, you'll probably want to keep it to this all NFT/diversions, because that's going to show you all the things that you need to do and all the metrics for the entire agency, which is probably going to be the most helpful for you guys. So like I said, to narrow the results by a specific agency, you can pick any of these agencies from this list. I'm going to stick with the demo agent since I have nice dummy data entered in here. And then you can also pick any of the TNs, which I also have some data set up for these guys. But I'm going to leave it at all NFT diversions for now, since it's the most information to play with. Okay, so let's start with talking about what's actually in the dashboard. So there's the to-do list. The to-do list shows you everything that you need to do related to NFT records and diversions. So you're only going to see state to-dos in here. You won't see anything that the agency has to do, since you guys don't really care about that in this scenario. But you can see what the agency has to do in monitors, and we'll go over that a little bit later. But you want to see when you log in what you have to do, and so that's what we show you in your dashboard to-do list. You've got the reminder date on this far left, then the participant name, then what type of to-do it is, so that's the to-do title, and then the due date. So this list here is actually organized by reminder date, but reminder date and due date are often the exact same date. The system, when it creates these to-dos, it automatically uses today as the date. So if the notice was submitted on the 25th, then the to-dos due date and reminder date are going to be that same day, the 25th. So that's how the to-do date and reminder date are determined. And then this orange text underneath, this is telling you how long ago they were overdue. So due date uses 5 p.m. as the time automatically, and reminder date defaults to 8 a.m., but you can change this if you want. And then this overdue here will tell you all the way up to 48 hours, and then past that, it'll count in days. So you can edit the to-do by clicking this last icon here that's like kind of a more options thing. You have the ability to edit the to-do item. You can go to that participant's case file, or you can open up the participant summary, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So I'm going to click this edit to-do item so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So this brings up the to-do title, description, the due date, reminder date, and then who entered it and who completed it. So you'll never really see the completed by, because as soon as you complete this to-do, it'll be deleted from your to-do list. But the entered by will show you who submitted the notice and when they submitted it. And so that's how the to-do is created. And then this due date and reminder date, like I said, they just default to that same day, but at 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. You can update these if you want. Otherwise, they'll just stay like this, and they'll kind of push it to the top of your to-do list. And then the title and description are also editable. If you want to change any or save any of your changes, you need to click the OK button at the bottom. But I wouldn't recommend changing these, because as soon as you complete this to-do, it'll be deleted. So it's kind of a waste of effort there. If you want something to remain in the case file, you're going to want to put that in like your state comments or something like that. Okay, so other things you can do from this screen is go to the participant summary or go to the actual notice and eligibility to complete this and actually review the notice. And then this just tells you what you need to do to complete it, which is kind of obvious right by the title. So I'm going to close this. If you happen to have a ton of to-dos to do, then this list will page. So these arrows will take you to the next page of to-dos and the next page of to-dos. But since I only have 5 of them added here, those buttons are not enabled. The next widget is the nifty caseload count. So this is literally just a count which shows you the number of participants that have open NF transition records. So a record is considered open when there isn't a submitted closed notice record. So when a closed notice record is submitted to the state, they will fall off of this count. But until then, and if they have a nifty record added, they're going to be included in this count. So that's kind of nice. You can see how many nifty people a given agency has, or a specific transition navigator. Okay, so the waiting to transition, this is another count. This is going to tell you the number of participants that have a nifty record where the notice and eligibility has been marked complete by you guys, a state user, but the participant does not have a transition record yet, transition results record. So that just means that, you know, they've been given the green light to transition, but they don't actually have a transition record yet. So once a transition record is added, they'll fall off of this count, and then the participant actually transitioning will be tracked by the send transition to state to do. So you won't lose track of that participant, but they will fall off of this count. So to see who actually makes up this number, you can go to the monitors module and see which participants actually are counted in this. I'll show you this after I finish explaining these other 2 widgets, but I want to stay on this page and finish out the dashboard. Okay, so the outstanding nifty notices to do, this widget is going to show you the number of notice records that haven't been submitted. So this is kind of telling you that you have 6 notices that are coming your way soon. And then the next column is the notices that aren't reviewed. So this is telling you that you have 2 notices to review for the agent 99. If you select all, you can see the metrics for the whole system statewide. So you can see that there are 11 nifty records added with notices that haven't been sent yet, and still only 2, I guess, total that haven't been reviewed. And then this exceptions to do is the same thing, but for exceptions. So each exception is counted individually. It's not like per participant. So there's 4 not yet sent and 5 not reviewed. So you have 5 exceptions that you guys need to review. And then needs info is the only other column for the exceptions. And that's a count of all the people that, not all the people, all the exceptions that have been marked needs info. So they need, the agent user needs to update the exception and send it back to you. So that's what those metrics are telling you. And again, they are controlled by these organization and assign to filters. So you can kind of change what you're looking at based on what agency you select and who you select in this assign to dropdown. Okay, so that's the dashboard. Next is monitors. So the monitors module shows you a couple different things. You've got the Nifty/Diversions to-do tracker and the NF Transition tracker, which has a couple different lists of participants who are basically in a position where you kind of want to keep tabs on them. So let's start with this tab. First, the reviewed waiting to transition. This is that same thing that we were just talking about in the dashboard where you had the count of 2 waiting to transition. This is the actual people that make up that count. So it's the amount of people that have complete notice and eligibilities but do not have transition results records. So this first column is the agency, next participant, you got their interview date and the days waiting. Days waiting is calculated by subtracting the current date from, or subtracting the initial interview date from the current date, and that's going to tell you how long they've been waiting to transition, kind of. I say kind of because maybe they're not actually waiting to transition and maybe they just need to be closed. That's for the transition navigator to determine. So we just keep them on this list so that you don't lose track of them and you actually transition them if that's what's needed, or you close them if they're not going to transition. What else to know about this list? Oh, so the agent column kind of seems silly and redundant if you have an agency selected, but if you had all selected, it's helpful because then they could come from different agencies and you're going to want to know who and where that comes from. Okay, so let's go back to demo. Transition not yet closed. This is a similar idea, but it's telling you the participants that have Nifty records that have transition results records added but aren't closed. So this just means that they have a transition result record that's been sent to the state, but no closed record submitted to the state. So if they have a closed record added, or a closed record added, as soon as a closed record is added, they will fall off this list. So this is not necessarily an indicator of people that need to be closed, because this could be people that are receiving transition services after they've transitioned. So you don't close those people right away. You close them when they're done receiving transition services. So it could be people like that. So again, this is up to the transition navigator to keep tabs on and make sure that they're closing people that need to be closed, or kind of monitoring people that are receiving transition services post-transition, because those are going to be special cases. Again, you've got the agency, the participant, the initial interview date, and then in this one, we're going to show you the date of transition so that you can see how long ago they transitioned compared to today. And so that's what this count is made up of. It's the date of transition minus today's date. And that's going to tell you how long they've been waiting to be closed or been open receiving services post-transition. These are sorted by default by these last count columns, but you can update how they're sorted by clicking in this top column, and you can sort this stuff by any of the columns. And that's the NF Transition Tracker. So then there's the Nifty/Diversions to-do tracker. This is literally just going to show you a list of all of the agent to-dos for the selected organization and assignee. So right now, you're going to see all of the agent to-dos for demo agent 99 that are related to Nifty records and diversion records. So that's that. It's organized by agency in case you have all selected. Then you're going to see what the to-do item is. So, for Michael Scott, you can see that he needs to submit, or not he, the user needs to submit Michael Scott's notice. You can see when that was created, so that's the due date, and you can see how long ago it was due, and so that's the days overdue. So this isn't going to be, super a place that you're living in and looking at as a state user, but if you're kind of curious what's coming down the line, what's going to be submitted soon, you can look here and see what's going on. So that is the Nifty/Diversions to-do tracker. Next is the participants module. So this is a pre-existing module, but new to state users since you guys just newly have Compass Next. The participant module is a search tool. This will search any and all types of participants, including people who are on the wait list or just have Nifty records or closed people. So it's a little different than statewide search too, is that you can search by any of these columns. So you don't have to search just on last name and first name. You can search on last name or first name. You can search on their SSN, their date of birth, the Medicaid ID, county, and phone. So it's a lot broader of a search. So it's kind of helpful if you kind of don't exactly know who you're looking for, but you remember something about them and you're trying to find that. Or maybe you want to see all the participants in a certain county. You could search on that. What else can you do? You could really just, find whoever you're looking for. And you can, it's nice too, is you can sort the data based on these columns in any way. You can do that by clicking on it. I'm a little nervous to show you the full depth of how this works because, this system has some of our fake data and real data mixed in. So I don't want that recorded on this video. But I'll show you someone that I know is fake by searching Harry Potter. So if I had several results, I could sort the data based on any of these different columns. You can combine sorts by holding Shift and then clicking another column and then clicking again to change from ascending to descending. And then this is another great place to access the participant summary, which we will go over next. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about this participant search. Not really, I don't think so. So to access the participant summary, like I had mentioned in the dashboard, you can get to it anywhere the participant's name is listed. So if I click on this row, it'll pull up the participant summary. This includes basic information about the participant. You got like the preferred method of communication if it's entered, some status information, their date of birth, SSN, the to-do list, and some links that can take you to the participant's case file and Nifty record or their attached files, So a lot of different information just right at your fingertips. That's what the participant summary is focused on. And another thing about the participant summary is the to-do list displayed here is going to show you all the to-dos for the participant related to Nifty and diversions. So it's not going to show you just what you need to do like the dashboard does. It'll show you everything that is related to the participant. So let's go back to the dashboard and find a better example. Maybe Hermione has more. Okay, so she has a send exception to the state and follow up on mental health referral. That's a user added to do. Those are both agent completable to-dos, not state completable to-dos. The state can only complete the review notice, review exception, and review diversion to-dos. Yet you see these agent to-dos on the participant to-do list. So I'm just pointing out that difference is this is where you can see everything that is related to the participant that is left to do versus the dashboard is going to only show you what you need to do as a user. What else? There are these tabs on the top. So if a participant has multiple agent relationships, you'll see the different agent codes here at the top. Maybe they are transitioning and they're actually going to go into a waiver program. So maybe another agency has opened up an episode preemptively to get ready for that. and you could see that information here. This is all fake. I don't know what the scenarios exactly are, but there's plenty of scenarios where one participant has multiple agent relationships. Maybe they've transferred, they're moving, who knows, but that's how you can see the different basic information for each of those agencies. Okay, so that's the participant summary. Next on these list of modules is the calendar. This is not really a big part of state users day to day. I'm just going to briefly show you that it's basically a materialized view of the to-do events, but shown in a schedule format. You can look at it in the day, week, or month view, and all it is the to-dos, but displayed in a calendar format using the reminder and due date information. So that's the calendar. Next is the Nifty selector. So the Nifty selector, in order to see anything, you need to select the organization first, and then you're going to want to do that because selecting an organization resets these filters. So it'd be annoying if you came in and typed something and then wanted to search, but you didn't have the org selected. So then you go to select the org, it's going to wipe out whatever you had typed. So make sure you have your organization selected first. You can't search without that. And then you can set these filters up however you'd like. The filter by is going to default to open. It's at close because I was in here playing before, and demo Mary again because I was in here playing before, but the defaults are open and all Nifty. So you can search on this right away to just see all the open Nifty clients for a given agency, or you can use these to filter down the results to only see closed people, or you could be searching for a specific TN's results, or participants that don't have a transition navigator selected yet in the Living CTA. Whatever you're looking for, that's how these filters work. But I will say there are two searches you can't do. You can't actually search for all closed. You have to type in a name and actually be looking for a particular somebody, because if you search all closed, it's going to be way too many results and overload the system's resources, because it'll have to bring back every single closed Nifty participant from the beginning of time. And then another one that we don't allow is all and all, because that's literally going to bring back every single participant that has an NF transition record added. So the Nifty selector, to show up in the results, you do need to have a Nifty record added. That is literally like the only criteria besides, what you select in these filters. And then you can search by name, but it will only search on last name. You can't search on first name. And you can search partial names. So I can type just BR and still get Brady. You don't have to type the full name. The columns here, so you got participant name, which is last, first, and then middle initial if it's entered. CO stands for county, so that's going to be the county code if it's entered. That comes from the most recent address record. Medicaid ID, that's entered in the participant record if the agency has entered this yet. Then Medicaid status, this is in the notice and eligibility in the state review section. This is a state field, so this is however you guys have marked this. There's acting, pending, denied, and then of course no selection, so that's why some of these are blank. Then you got the initial interview date, then interview plus 180. So this is a new field that you guys requested. This represents the goal date that the participant should be transitioned in order to get full federal funding. So this is 180 days after the initial interview date, and it's not going to be updated after a participant is reevaluated. So if they add another notice and eligibility down the line, this date will not be updated, since for the purpose of federal funding, they're not going to care. They just want that true initial interview date. So that's the goal date that you would get everything covered. And then transition minus 180, I'm skipping this one, is, well, it's just transition date. So it's the date that the participant transitioned if they did. if they haven't transitioned, then it's not going to show up. And if a transition record is added but not sent to state, the transition date will still show up in here. So this isn't an indication if it's been submitted yet or not. But so transition minus 180 kind of is the inverse of the interview plus 180. So this is going to tell you the earliest date that transition services will still be paid for after a participant has transitioned. So basically, since you don't know in the beginning if they're actually going to transition and you don't have the transition date to work with, this is telling you that, goal date of hopefully when they will be transitioned. But then if a transition record is added and you know the date, this is telling you, all right, now what's 180 days minus that? All right, that's when I'm going to get, that's the earliest date that I'll still get federal funding. So these were added to help state billing users with the billing process. And then there is the reeval due date. This is based on the complete notice and eligibility. So if there is a complete notice and eligibility, whatever the linked CTA date is in there, this is 365 days plus that they'll have to be reassessed. And as soon as a close record is added, the close date shows up here. So for none of these people have close dates added, but a close date actually can show up when you have the open filter on, because to be considered open, you just have to have you have to not have a closed record sent to state. But if you have one added, you're technically still open because the participant is not closed until the NIFTY record is actually sent to the state. So don't be alarmed if you see closed date when you have the open filter on. So if I change this to close and search, oh yeah, you can't do that. You have to actually select something here or search on something more specific. So that's that error that I was talking about. Too many results. Please narrow your search. So I think I have someone closed for Mary. Yeah, Ron Weasley. So there's an example of seeing someone with an actual close date in there. Okay, so other things, once you actually find who you're looking for, you can select them and then go to their case file, or you can bring up their participant summary like I've done by clicking on the name and use these different links that actually will take you to some other different options like the participant record, NIFTY record, attached files, or maybe you just were searching for them and wanted to see some of this quick information and that's all you needed. Otherwise, if you use the case file button, it will bring you directly to the NIFTY record since you're in the NIFTY selector, and that's how you can get to the case file. If you're not using the participant summary, that's another way to get to the case file. Something else I wanted to talk about in the NIFTY selector is, again, anywhere in Compass Next that you see these columns, you can order the data by any of the columns, and let me get some more data here. You can order the data by multiple columns by holding Shift and then clicking on another, and then changing it from ascending to descending by clicking twice in the same column. So that can be kind of nice if you're looking at a bunch of results and wanting to kind of drill down and organize your data based on any of these columns. Okay, so now let's talk about actually reviewing the notice and eligibility and exceptions and diversions, and then we'll be done. So hang in there with me. I'm going to go back to the dashboard just because I want to show you how these lovely complete check marks work in action. So let's pretend that we want to review Hermione Granger's notice and eligibility. So to complete this to-do, I can click this check mark, and now it's going to take me into the case file for Hermione and take me to the actual notice and eligibility that needs to be reviewed. So I'm not going to go over all the specifics of the new NIFTY record since you guys should be familiar with that since you helped design everything. but this is also covered in depth in all the other individual record videos. So there's a video for the notice and eligibility, there's a video for the CTA, exceptions, and so on. So if you guys have any questions or curiosities about those records, you can watch those individual training videos. But the majority of what you need to know, I'm going to go over right now. So to review the notice and eligibility, you're going to want to go to the notice and eligibility record, and you're going to notice that there's only the state review fields. So to see the information that went into submitting a notice, the best way to do this is run the notice and eligibility report, which is going to compile all those notice and eligibility fields that are located throughout the CTA. Okay, so to do that, highlight this record like we already have, and then click or hover over this reports, and then you're going to want to click the notice and eligibility report option. If you click right here, the report will open up in the default output, which is PDF. If you wanted to see any of these other export options, you can, go over this left menu and select from there. But I'm just going to use the default, and it's going to open up the report in a new tab. And we do have one issue right now with our demo site, that it's printing these nulls where it should say notice and eligibility report, and this one should say CTA date. So just ignore that for now. When you guys are using the production release, that will be fixed. That's actually already fixed, but not in this release. Okay, so this is the notice and eligibility report. So this is where you can go to see the calculated eligibility determinations for all the different criteria, and they're broken down by the sub-criteria. So it's got not met and met. So you can see where the participants are, kind of struggling and where they're doing okay. And then it summarizes if they're eligible or not here at the bottom. If the beneficiary is eligible or not eligible will be described right here, and that's based off of the calculations that you guys created based on the iSpot. So next you have the transition navigator information, the nursing facility information, and then it goes into breaking down each of the fields that goes into submitting a notice. So these are all the actual individual fields that decide if a specific criteria is met or not. And it's all summarized on this report so that you guys can easily go through this information quickly versus having to review the entire CTA. But that's totally up to you. If you want to look at the information in the CTA, that is also available. So that's how the notice and eligibility report is broken down. Like I said, if you want to go into the CTA to review this information, you can look at the dated CTA that's linked to the notice and eligibility, or you can look in the living CTA, which is going to have the most recent version of the data. So if the Transition Navigator updated anything since they submitted the notice, the living CTA will have all that information. It's showing locked because state users can't edit the living CTA or delete it, so that's why there's those lock icons. The saved CTA are also not editable, but they can be deleted in case an agent user accidentally saves a copy and they didn't want to. They might request that you guys delete it for them. So that's why this delete button is enabled. But you can't delete save CTA that are linked to notice and eligibility. So whenever agent users submit a notice and eligibility, the system automatically creates a copy of the CTA at that point, so that we make sure for audit purposes that we have whatever was put in the CTA at that point in time that they submit. So you can tell what the linked CTA is by looking at this node label. It'll have the exact same timestamp. So this is 3/38/19. So the one that's actually linked is this one, not this guy. So if I tried to delete this, the app won't let me because it's actually used in a notice and eligibility. So if you had to delete this and they wanted you to delete that, then you'd actually need to delete the notice and eligibility first. So keep that in mind when you're getting delete requests. What else? So I guess when you're actually ready to make a decision on the notice, if you've looked at the report or you've looked through the CTA and you're ready to confirm the eligibility and mark the notice and eligibility as complete or denied, you'll go to the state review section here and put whatever information applies to this case scenario. Just something to pay attention to is we've removed the incomplete process. So you used to mark notices incomplete when you just wanted maybe the agent to change something about the notice record, or they were missing something, or you wanted to clarify something, and then you guys would, make a comment in your state comments and then mark it incomplete. You'll do the same process, only instead of marking incomplete, you'll mark denied. And then the agent user will still be notified, and they'll still look at your comments and see whatever they need to do to resubmit and hopefully get complete. But instead of it doing the incomplete thing where the notice record keeps going back and forth between being able to be edited by an agent user and a state user, an agent user and a state user, they'll just go into the CTA. Sorry, I meant to click in here, because this will be unlocked for them. They'll make whatever changes it is that you guys wanted, and then they'll resubmit, and that doesn't require them to enter all the information again. It's actually going to be really quite simple. So that's how that process is going to work. And then another reminder is if what you need them to change is related to the participant record, information missing there or that's incorrect, you can just let them know through other methods of communication. You don't need to deny the notice to ask them to update the participant record, because denying the notice should be associated to stuff that's actually in the notice. So that is reviewing the notice and eligibility. I'm trying to look at my notes quick to see if I missed anything. I think those are all the big aspects. All this stuff is in the user guides too, in case I did happen to miss anything that I meant to say. One last thing is the notice and eligibility report can be run from the notice or the living CTA. So if you kind of want to see if anything has changed in the living CTA since they've submitted it, maybe you guys didn't get around to reviewing the notice for a while and you think that maybe they changed some things in the CTA, you can run that same report from there. Or maybe the agent communicated to you that they've changed some things in the CTA. But if that's the case, they really should just resubmit another notice. But that's, up to you, up to the scenario. Okay. Lastly, we have reviewing the exception and reviewing diversions. So reviewing exceptions is basically the exact same process as it was before. The only difference is that now there are those to-dos, the review exception to-do. So as soon as you review it, that to-do will be cleared. Otherwise, nothing about this state review section has changed. When you mark it pending, this will still be handed over to the agent user. So make sure you have your comments in before you mark it pending. Approved with conditions, denied, pending, all those options will clear your review notice or review exception to do. Under review won't, since it's not actually reviewed yet, it's just under review. Not a lot else there. What else? So then there's the diversions. Diversions are now in their own little world. They're separated out from the Nifty portal. So to review diversions, you're going to need to go down to the diversion node and click on the record that needs to be reviewed. Or if you go from the dashboard and use the check mark, it'll take you right there. Okay, so then you're just going to scroll down to the state review section and review the diversion after you've looked over what they've put in and looked over the imminent risk assessment that's related. So this diversion is related to the 825. So if you go to the imminent risk record, you got to find the 825 one. Look at that, and then make sure you're in agreement with what they've put, or you're okay with it, and then complete or deny or incomplete are your options. And incomplete works just like the exceptions, where if you mark this, it's going to lock the record. So you're going to want to make sure you put your comments in first, whatever those are, before you click incomplete. And then they'll have to resubmit it to you, and then you can mark complete or denied from there. Or you could mark incomplete again if they're still missing something. But that process is very similar to how the notice works today and how exceptions work today. So that is reviewing diversion. I think the last thing I wanted to cover is that state users can now delete and edit agent data if they need. We've set up your permissions already, kind of based on what you already had. CIM manages your permissions, so if you're not able to do something that you need to do, like delete or edit, just let us know and we'll get you set up however you need. But that is new. Before, if you had add change, we gave you delete. So if that's not appropriate, just let us know and we can update your permissions. But from now on, you'll be able to delete diversions, and you'll be able to delete NFTY records and all of the child records. In order to delete a NFTY record, you're going to have to delete all the children records first in order to delete the whole entire record. And then there's also those validation rules where you can't delete a saved CTA if it's referenced in a notice and eligibility. You have to delete the notice and eligibility first, then you can delete the saved CTA. And so once you've deleted all the children record, you can delete the whole thing as a whole. You can also delete diversions, like I said, but imminent risk records and housing assessments and home safety evaluations, those are deleted by people that have never see record locks and the delete permission for those records. So if agencies ask you guys to delete those, you can let them know that that's not your responsibility, and that people with never see record locks and the delete permission will be able to delete those. So that's how that works. Otherwise, you'll be able to perform those deletes without having to request us to do that. On top of that, you can actually edit agent data if you need. You'll just have to let us know, because I don't think we have anyone set up to do that right now, since that's a very unique scenario. But if you guys do need to do this, just let us know, and you can also edit agent data in particular situations. So I think that covers all the big basics on NFTY records and diversions. Like I said before, if you have any other questions about the different specifics of the NFTY record or the housing or home safety, any of this new stuff, you can watch the agent training videos, but they are geared towards agent users and how they'll have to, add and complete and submit and all that good stuff. So there might be a little bit more information than you're interested in. So just be aware of that. Thanks for listening.